And a 3 and a 2 and welcome to the Thursday live stream, folks. I got a special guest waiting in the online lobby. Jody Midic is going to be joining us in a hot minute, and he's going to be talking about his issue with Veterans Affairs and his pension. So we're going to start getting to the bottom of this. It's an important issue because it scared me, because if they can do it to him, they can do it to anybody. Before we get into that, if this is your first time tuning into a live stream, welcome. We go live every Thursday at 1400 Eastern Standard. If you want to drop a comment, say hello, I'd really appreciate it. And anybody that is a long-term member here, there is the ability for you to help out a veteran podcast like this one and help keep the lights on. You can become a member. Membership is here on the YouTube app. Really simple to use, and you'll be supporting the growth of the show. And I want to thank you immensely if you do become a member. So let's get into what's going on in Veteranland. I want to cover off just a few quick things here, and then get right over to Jody. So the first thing is, if you haven't checked out Aaron Gunn's film, Forsaken Warriors, about the decline of the calf, folks, let me just tell you, wow, it's an hour and a half. He interviewed everybody, and it is such a glaring kind of spotlight on what's going wrong. And I want you to form your own opinions on it. I watched it. I thought it was incredible. So shout out to Aaron for doing such a great job, and go check this out on YouTube. It's absolutely free to watch. The other thing I want to point out too is we've got the military influencer coming up. Like, it's coming up on Monday, folks. What is the Military Influencer Conference? The premier business conference for the military community on the planet. And thanks to Cortez Riggs for having the vision to bring Canadians down and have our own little piece of real estate at this conference. Me and young Mike, who's unable to be on the back end of today's show because he's diligently working to get some of the background images and admin taken care of for the conference. We've been going down for 2 years, and this year we were asked to be organizers for the Canada House contingent. And we want to thank everybody that has decided to get on board with this crazy idea. So I want to thank 123 Cyber for being a company that is coming down, Tactical Snacks, Collabo Wave, and Avail Veterans, who are going to be manning their booths. We've also got Pro Patria Coffee, which, guys, at Pro Patria Coffee, like, you guys are stellar human beings. Thanks so much for sending me a mug. Appreciate it. We've also got Corporate for Life, who's a proud sponsor. We've got Canadian Veteran Marketplace, proud sponsor. We've also got Steve Leroux, a Remax agent here in Montreal, and B Air, a HVAC company here in Montreal, sponsoring us to go down. So thanks so much, guys, for all your support. And a big, big thank you to Aceris Biopharma for supporting us from the very, very beginning, and helping this literally get off, well, not literally, but helping this get off the ground with being our primary sponsor. And we have a really cool event that's going to be happening, actually, which is going to be, and I'll pull it up here. It's going to be the highlight event of the Canadian contingent. That's not it. This is it here. So on October 2nd, we're going to have a whiskey and guitars night, and it's going to be with the notorious Dallas Alexander. Where is it? It's here somewhere. It's at 4 p.m. There we go. Coming up. Come on. There we go. So we got Dallas. He's going to be coming down, and he's going to be playing some tunes. And we'd like to also thank the Green Beret Foundation for stepping up to the plate. Don't know them from Adam, and saying, hey, fellow Special Forces brother is going to be doing something here at the conference. We'd love to get behind it. So everybody's involved. Thanks so much. There's going to be so much more coming down the pipe in terms of content and what we're up to. So stay tuned to this channel, and you'll get your updates. And if you haven't done so, go support these companies. Go support your veteran-owned companies. Jody's got a company. He'll probably even talk about it a little bit when we get on the live stream. Just if you want to support the troops, this is where the support really comes into play, and this is where we can help grow our businesses. And lastly, I want to give a shout out to a member of the Veterans Getting Fit AF community. Dan Hefferton for completing a Tough Mudder, his 15K Tough Mudder last week with a few friends. So he was getting back after it. His back didn't seize up, and he's been rehabbing a serious back issue. I feel you, brother. I've been in the same boat for many years, and every little victory means a hell of a lot. So shout out to Dan. If you want to join the community, the link is here in the description. It's a way to get a little bit leaner, get a little bit stronger, figure things out if you're a veteran. And in this community, you can ask direct questions to podcast guests as they come up every week. So that is the Veterans Getting Fit AF community. So let's head over to Jody. Let's get this off the screen here, and let's bring Jody onto the stage and have a little chat. Jody, my man, what's going on, brother?
You know, I'm glad you have Pro Patria coffee because I am a royal, but I am drinking my Green Army coffee, which I would put up against anybody's out there. But the best part is, Dave, as you pointed out, you know, most of us are turning to some entrepreneurship, and you know, coffee, t-shirts, and podcasts seems to be the veterans only fans, you know. So, you know, I started my first podcast in like 2010, I think, after I saw the Rogan show. And, you know, these things matter. You know, your show, my show, you know, the collective, there's several shows now that are Canadian veterans. And, you know, it's a growing movement. And I remember when you invited me to the event down in Vegas a few years ago when you were going, and, you know, I've been wanting to go, and every year I see you going back, and I just heard the description and my heart was swelling, because this is exactly what Canadian veterans need, is this kind of organization and this kind of movement to help unify us, you know. And I want to thank you for, you know, for letting me come on your platform, taking me seriously, and, you know, and realizing the impact this will have for, you know, not just me, for you. If my kids join the Army, if their kids join the Army, you know, when I joined in 1994, we were in the middle of FRP, force reduction. And somehow, you know, we managed to maintain the core of the combat arms. And what I mean by that is that when tested, we were still able to perform despite our lack of certain equipment and certain training. You know, but the deal was that my uncle was in the regiment. You talk to a ton of the old guys back then, you know, if you join and you get wounded, you know, they'll take care of you for life. We're not talking mega money, but we're talking about enough for you to be able to pay your bills and keep a roof over your head and probably feed your kids till the day you die. And, you know, recently I got a letter from Veterans Affairs where, you know, that's not the case anymore. You know, apparently our pensions are called benefits. You know, our compensation is called, you know, an incentive or an allowance. You know, these are all new terms to me under the situation and the system that I thought I was falling under. You know, when I stepped on that landmine, I wasn't worried about this, you know, because I didn't think I had to. You know, it didn't occur to me that anyone 18 years later, after I got smashed, would ever even want to have this situation come up. It's just, it's almost alien to me. You know, we talked a little bit earlier, and, you know, I was talking to a friend of mine right before the show, and they said, well, make sure you bring up, you know, how you're not breaking any clause. Because, you know, when you read it, it's Section 21 of the Veterans Wellbeing Act. And you read it, it's just a rabbit hole of links, you know, down the websites that don't lead to really anything. So, you know, my whole position, and, you know, we can get more into it, but is just that I challenge the existence of this clause or regulation or policy, whatever they call it, for combat wounded. For me, as a combat injured soldier, this is an unacceptable system. The new Veterans Charter, I did not see its value in 2007 when they introduced it. To this day, I've always advised against it, and they need to go back to lifetime pensions. And Trudeau, you know, recently promised that, and now suddenly we're stuck with this.
So, Jody, before we get any further down the rabbit hole, let's define what we're talking about here, because we've definitely got people that are going to tune in and be like, well, A, who the hell is Jody Midic? And B, what is actually going on here? So let's start with that. Let's get just a backstory as to like where you're coming from,
Raj.
and then let's talk about the
So you want-
literal incident that had just happened that's spurring this conversation here.
Right. So you want me to go back to where I got wounded, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, like, let's keep that as tight as possible, and then let's chat about the actual incident.
So in 2007, I was a sniper team leader, master sniper on ops in Kandahar, and unfortunately, one night I stepped on an IED, lost both feet below the knees. Fast forward, I've tried to work within the system as they presented it. University of Service had come out, so I'm unable to remain in the forces for whatever reason. And they introduced the new Veterans Charter. So fast forward to now, I'm in a position where my life, I did manage to get into politics. I had my own podcast for a while. I'm bringing it back soon.
Which you literally inspired me to. Get into podcasting right without even knowing me. It was one of my.
I appreciate that's when that was my goal too, right? Like to spur more of this like ability to just talk about what's legit. A lot of what we deal with is the inability to report true issues, and when we do tell, we're dismissed in this case. So as soon as I got hurt, my name got out a little bit. I ended up being on The Amazing Race. So I was able to be a part of the process through just sheer force of my popularity through the evolution of the Veterans Charter. When Prime Minister Trudeau went to get elected, he promised to, make some changes, some what we thought were going to be positive changes, and then a few other things that he said that I thought made him a decent candidate. Their idea appears to fixing the new Veterans Charter, which is the charter that is designed around, the welfare of the injured soldiers and air personnel and Navy personnel who come home from the incredibly dangerous missions that we are sent on. In my case, this is legit 3 guys in non-permissible terrain working behind enemy lines. One of us gets smashed. Like that's pure combat. I understand that there's other things that can happen in service, but I'm just, for my purposes, I'm focused on this. Because even when I got hurt, there was this lean away from don't ever say wounded. Don't ever say wounded. You were injured. I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure I was wounded. Yeah, so and these are the things, that's I figured that out. That's why we don't get any Victoria Crosses, is because we technically never were in combat, they say, right? So let's just fast forward then to July 2nd, where I get this letter in the mail from Veterans Affairs, and I had another letter sent in April, they say, but I opened it the same day as this one because they appeared in the mailbox. So I'm just going to read you this one, which was a huge surprise. Okay. So it's from Veterans Affairs, July 2nd, 2024. Dear Mr. Midic, subject, suspension of your income replacement benefit, right? So right there, they're already using language that, takes away from what it's truly meant to be. It's not a benefit. It's not allowance. Like it's an award and it's a compensation, right? Mm-hmm. Further to our letter dated April 10th, we are writing to advise that your income replacement benefit is suspended under Section 2.1 of the Veterans Well-Being Act. I don't think they know what the well-being part means, right?
The well-being part is kind of being left out. I say it's like a Monty Python skit.
Dude, sometimes I feel like I'm being tested, You are required to provide us any financial information needed to assess your continued eligibility to the income replacement benefit or to determine the amount of your benefit payable as per Section 2.5 of the Veterans Wellbeing Regulations. If you have a computer out there, go ahead, Google Veterans Wellbeing Act. It'll pop up the government page under I believe the Ministry of Justice, perhaps. Which I thought was kind of cool and odd at the same time. I was also on Ottawa City Council, so I understand all the politics around this stuff. So further to the letter. In order to ensure that you received the correct income replacement benefit amount for 2020 through 2023, we need to verify your self-employment earnings. Please provide us with the information from your income tax return found in lines for each year you were self-employed. Self-employment business income line 13500. Self-employment professional income line 13700. Self-employment commission income line 13900. Self-employment farming income line 14100, and self-employment fishing income line 14300. As we have not received the required information, your income replacement benefit has been suspended effective July 2nd, 2024. Yeah, same day of the letter being sent. There will be no monthly payment as of July 2024. Please submit the required information to have your income replacement benefit reinstated. And then it goes on to threaten, if this information is not received by January 2nd, 2025, your income replacement benefit will be canceled. Please submit the required information before this date to avoid cancellation of your income replacement benefits. Once canceled, it will not be possible to reinstate your income replacement benefit. You would have to reapply and be found eligible for the income replacement benefit should you wish to receive it again.
Dude, you don't have your legs, bro.
Buddy.
What would you have to do? Apply to say, like, I don't have them? Like,
I don't. Well, this is the thing, right? Like, all this is new. This is all gobbledygook bureaucratic speak. And, and here so the last part, K. Swanson Centralized Processing Center. And there's the info for if you want to request a review or go to MyVac questions, call or visit. So we could call 866-522-2122 and be like, why are you doing this? But when we tried that, we get a frontline worker. And so far I've had 2 calls with Veterans Affairs. The first one was an intake nurse who was like, hey, just give me the paperwork and I'll get your money turned back on. And Dave, we talked earlier, my position, as a individual and as a veteran, politics is the business of the person. And this is very personal to me because someone decided to take my money, my kids' money. And they decided to use paperwork to do it. And, I truly believe I'm being gaslit. I truly believe I'm being politically targeted. It's not a secret that in 2019, a bunch of weird shit went on. And part of that involved, the federal Liberal Party. It did. I was a member, I voted for Trudeau, like I said, but, friends don't always stay friends. And I just believe that at this time, this type of maneuver, it's almost like it's designed to cause an individual to have a moment, let's just say. And, I'll tell you, when I first got the letter, if I had called you that day, I would have been a raging lunatic. I was so upset by this. And, I don't like to boo-hoo or get me a safe space. That's fine. It was the whole way it was done. And, how I had a case manager call me repeatedly and tell me that, and I told her repeatedly, like, my finances are in disorder. I am slowly sorting them out. And, that didn't track, and this individual, Kay Swanson, from VAC, they could have called, like, there was no effort put in to avoiding this on VAC's part. And I feel like preyed upon, like they had a chance, they took it. Pardon me.
Okay, I'm still unclear though.
Oh,
it's not because you didn't say something unclear.
Right.
It's on their part. They have said in that document that, okay, as of January 2025, if you don't rectify this, you're done.
Right.
But they've already cut off the money coming to you without the document, like without a grace period. Did I get that right? Like, they just said, hey, you're toast. And by the way, you're even more toast in January if we don't get what we want. Did I get that right? Like it's basically
Yeah,
like they
yeah,
they already fired the artillery before they went to the table to do the negotiations. They're just like they
yeah.
fired the
It's like,
artillery and then they're like, hey, we're gonna negotiate now. It's like, dude, you already
yeah,
fired your
they got,
cell though. Like,
yeah. Well, they
no,
got
we're
a
at war now.
lingering munition back there with a 250-pound warhead strapped to it. You know.
Right.
Um,
Like, I mean, like we all fought war. Like we understand how war is fought. And like you
well,
don't come to the table by already shooting your guns.
well, this is. I mean, I don't. What they're trying to accomplish is, this is. You read literature on this type of stuff. This is a punitive measure. This is they're trying to force compulsion. They're trying to, get you to comply. And I just can't. What they haven't said if I'll get the back pay mode. Um, with the record I have with even with CAF, and back pay for field combat pay, all that jazz that came in after I got wounded. Um, you know, I think I've been shortchanged from the beginning anyway, and anyone in my position has been under the new Veterans Charter. And we can't just keep nodding our head and going along, and every budget going, darn it, we didn't get what we thought we wanted, and having them tell us that it's for our own good. Because part of what you'll read if you do go through the Veterans Wellbeing Act, Dave, is this continued like implication that we need help to get back into life and to reintegration or integration is peppered through the document quite a lot. And in my opinion, that's been used to, like, let's the money that should be coming in to each of our pockets, what isn't coming in has been redirected into these services that they convince us that we need, in some cases services that were always provided anyway. So I'm not positive exactly what the disconnect is. But we went from the system that took care of us and tried to help us to this one that it treats us as though we are, no offense to anybody out there, we're not welfare recipients, we're not disability recipients, we're not unemployment recipients. I at the prime of my life, I went into combat and I had my whole future taken from me. That's fine. That's part of the deal. I don't begrudge that part. What I begrudge is the fact that since that has happened, the amount of financial restitution and support, and eligibility for things just keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I'm only 47. It hasn't even been 20 years. So, we're just at a point now where as veterans, we have to get serious about some of this stuff. And, I think this is a fundamental issue to service in this country. I truly do. I truly do. I didn't join and get smashed for a guarantee of an allowance. I never would have joined the Canadian infantry if that was the case. I mean, maybe I would have at 17, but like, we can't allow this kind of abuse of authority to happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're seeing it already with the lawsuit that Catherine and Valor Legal has brought against the CAF for the COVID stuff, right? Like the abuse of power is endemic. It's part of the culture. And even in Aaron Gunn's movie, I can't remember who he interviewed, but he said he's like, the reason why VAC is the way it is because it was created after the First World War to prove guys were malingering because they had conscripts. So they had a lot of guys and they didn't have the internet. They didn't have the same passage of information. So they would literally just assume that you were malingering and trying to cheat the system. And so the culture still exists. Like they had a conscript army. We're all volunteers. None of us had to join the military. Like that's the fundamental difference.
I think he's right in that there was the fraud aspect, bro. From what I've been told, though, in the past, Veterans Affairs did what we just described. It handed out money, it handed out support. Yeah, you had to prove it, but it was there to be got. And on the flip side of this letter, I did get a letter as well that told me I'm eligible for $90,000 in education funding. Which is great. What Veterans Affairs has certainly become, I think, is that it over worries about the fraud part, as you said, right? Like, it's worrying about it in the wrong places, if that makes sense. And, anyone who's a true fraudster always gets caught. Eventually it comes out. It can't stay hidden that long, and I just, I can't go on continuing to deal with this. It's tough on the family. It's tough on me, of course. I'm trying to just move ahead with my life, and this is the kind of stuff that it does feel, for as an individual, this is the kind of stuff that Veterans Affairs is doing to try and keep me in my place rather than let me grow and like move on. Like if they want to talk about an income replacement benefit, well, prior to, my drug issues and my mental health issues where I burned out, I was earning a decent income. So why not evaluate me on that? Because that's a proof of earnings.
Well, like we were saying before we hopped on this morning, right? Like,
yeah,
I evaluate you as a $250,000 man. And the only reason why I say that is because you're wicked smart. You're also able to carry a conversation very well, which is a skill in and of itself, right? You came back from a demanding job, and I'm not even talking about the fact that you were a master sniper. Like just that alone is a feat. So then you end up taking on politics. You're writing books. So clearly you have a skill set that a lot of human beings don't have. And so in the free market, that commands a lot of respect and a lot of cash. So if you go in the private sector, you get paid. And a lot of us are in that same boat too. Like I was never a commanding officer or anything like that. So like I wasn't a master sniper, but I recognize that I do have some skill sets that are valuable in the market. And, because we can't get to that potential, because in your case, you've clearly been severely wounded. So therefore the amounts we get are there to compensate. And that's why, I understand like income replacement. It's like, yeah, dude, like, hey, I wanted to stay in too, man. I didn't want to leave, but they said your career's over. So go home.
Yeah.
Okay. But this is what I do. I'm sure I had a teaching career, but I initially just wanted to be in the Reg Force. I wanted to leave the reserves. That was going to be my career path because I love being overseas. I love being at war. I was like, fuck, can I do this the rest of my life? This is awesome. But they're like, no, you're too hurt and we don't have anything else for you. See you later. And I was like, oh shit. Like, really? There's nothing else? Like, I'm good at this. And in your case, like, obviously you're really good at this one thing, but now you're injured, but I don't understand why there's this push to get us out. And then as they push us out, and it's the only place that I know of that you lose a career that and you actually want to stay in, then they give you a hard time for the compensation that they're going to give you. And the analogy I used was like, well, imagine a public servant when they quote unquote retired. Throughout the rest of their retirement years, they had to justify why they're getting their pension from Service Canada.
Yeah, imagine every year.
Their freaking minds. There would be bags of shit burning on Trudeau's house front step every day. Like that's guaranteed. Well, but us, it's like, oh, well, Jody, sorry, you didn't fill in an income report. Yeah. So too bad, so sad.
Well, and I think, you bring up a good point. Like we don't appear to have, despite all these people working on our behalf, true representation once the actual hard numbers hit the table. And if, the generals and the chiefs want to claim that they're doing it. And I know when the new charter was introduced in 2007, they kept telling us how the Legion was a big part of it. And, we're like, nobody asked us what we thought of this system. And, that tells you that it was already a done deal. But, anyone who has to go into combat would have told them, like, no, this is, and I did. Once I got hurt and other guys, we were like, lump sums? We were like, what are you guys talking about? Like, I remember the lady from Veterans Affairs, she was, an elder, at 30, she must have been in her 60s. She hands me the check. She says, there you go invest that. I was, what? I was like, I'm in the hospital, still in my wheelchair with my legs covered in bandages. And she's like, so proud. She's like, here you go. And I'm like, nothing against her. But in that moment, I said, Lee, do you know what you just did? I was like, this isn't enough. I said, when this runs out, you think they'll write me another one? She's like, no, you invest it. I'm like, in what? Right? Like the S&P 500. Like, what do you mean invest it?
Oh, that's so patronizing.
And if you do want me to invest it, by the way, like $250,000, like what are we investing in? Like, that's not going to get you very far. And that, because as someone with 108% physical disability, life's just a little harder, and it always costs a little bit more for things, and these things just aren't factored in. They just don't seem to be. But yeah, like this is such a mystery to me that we're even having this conversation. Next steps forward, I think, I'm gonna try and get in front of the Veterans Review Board. Their parliament is sitting right now, so I may go up and crash a few committee meetings at some point. Not crash, like kick in doors. And Dave, this isn't one of the things we have to remember. This isn't something we can like frontal attack. This is something we have to be strategic and tactical, and we got to think asymmetrically. We have to be force multipliers, all the awesome words we like to apply to ourselves in the combat arms and stuff. Because as a politician as well, like that's the delicate art of getting your way in politics. You can't call someone a dickhead even if they're being one, or you end up like Trudeau today. I saw in Parliament apologizing for saying bad words. Like, we have to be more artful with our words, and because words are the most powerful weapons on the planet. And I think the more we fight them on their own ground and with their own tactics and their own ammo, like words and strategy, I think the better off we'll be. We don't have union reps and anything, so if anything, we all have to become experts in our own requirements in this system. We all have to like take the Veterans Wellness Act and study the shit out of it like it's a machine gun, Pam. Like practice it, like look at it, rehearse it, look at it like it's a 9-liner. Like, what in here is going to save my life? What in here is going to help me and my friends? And we have to become just, barracks room lawyers over this stuff. Otherwise, this is never going to end.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Jody. And like the lawyer side of things too. Like, I know because I talk to a lot of folks in the States, because they're so much bigger and they're so much more litigious. They have a much better grasp of this kind of stuff from the outside looking in, and they don't put up with shit, right? And also the culture is just a lot more patriotic. So there's a greater amount of just regular civilians that wouldn't put up with this. So I think that's a big cultural difference between both of us. But I think there are going to be hopefully more lawyers that are going to tune into the fact that because lawyers obviously want to get paid. So they want to know that this is actually something that can be fruitful. So there's that side of everything, right? I'm sure you've dealt with enough lawyers these days, but at the end of the day, like, yeah, we can definitely become a lot more aware of what we're entitled to, but we have to ensure that we don't fracture ourselves. And I think that's part of the ploy, right? Is to kind of keep us fractured with like different in-groups within the veteran community. Like, and that's part of what I'm trying to do here too. Like, I know I criticize the government a lot, and I criticize, like I've talked about rainbow veterans and shit like that. But at the end of the day, we're all veterans. I don't give a shit if you have a rainbow flag or not. What I give a shit about is that the government's using us as like little tools to kind of get their way and kind of create wedges between us. But I wanted to just get into the comments real quick, because some of the folks here are pretty they're regulars, so I want to give them some shout outs. Friday Terry is here again, and he'll catch the replay. Friday Terry's a long-standing guest here. Odious Patton too. He's always throwing up the slide. Everybody's giving me an education here. This is Diagolon, so we got some Diagolon folks here. So he's always here. Who else do we have that I want to give some? LT Survival, welcome. I haven't seen you before. So liberal
Purple Cat.
Yeah. Oh, it was Purple Cat. Purple Cat pissed me off to the hey, how's it going, Purple Cat? Welcome to the show. Actually, James Graham here. This is James. I haven't seen you on the show before, so welcome. He brings up a good point, and you know what? We were talking about this actually before, Jody, that just to distill his argument, it's an income tested benefit. So he's like, just submit your forms.
Yeah, but that's the problem.
That's the problem, right? Like, it should just be, I don't give, like, I'm acting as government. I don't give a shit if you're Bill Gates. I don't give a shit if you're Elon Musk. I'm still giving you your $6,000 a month, and you can make $1 billion a month. I don't care, because you earned this, because you serve the country. So go ahead and use that money. Hell, if I give and I find it so preposterous too. The government is literally talking about universal basic income, but yet they won't accept that, hey, maybe veterans would be like the best suited people to just get their, if you want to call it universal basic veteran income, maybe that would get their hive mind to come around to be like, oh, maybe it's a good thing. And then the whole idea of like taxing them and having them to give more so that they can prove to get that benefit would be moot. But because I think that's what James's point is like, yeah, you could absolutely, like, I have to do the same thing too. And I get freaked out because they call me and they're like, hey, Mr. Morrow, you've got a few businesses going on here. What's your income statement? I'm like, $0. They're like, I'm like, no, I just, it's the IRB. That's all I make. Because they think that because I'm here doing YouTube stuff and I coach people that, I must be bringing in all kinds of cash, when in reality, I do this to break even. Like, this is what I do to pass my time, and I love it. Right. So
I know, bro. It's like you don't make money at this. Like I even with books and stuff, you barely make enough money back for your time. But I never wanted to do it. Money's great. Don't get me wrong. I love money. I want to make a lot of it. However, to this point, it's been about the message and it's been about the community. I've tried to make it that way. I've sat back for a while. Like I said, I had disagreements with people in the current government. That's fine. I had to sort out my own personal life. But we just, we got to keep pushing, to James's point. It's not personal. Just do this. You could solve it. I shouldn't be in this issue. This shouldn't be a problem for me, period. And I remember when, I don't know if you remember, in Paul Franklin, he got wounded and lost both his legs above the knees when Glenn Berry, our diplomat, was assassinated.
Yeah.
And he's under the old system. He was given the option of the new system, and he said absolutely not, because he took a look at it. He was a medic. He realized it wasn't going to do what it was supposed to do. I think I lost a bit of my train of thought there, but
what I'm hearing is we've got essentially two tiers of veterans right now.
Possibly,
we've got those that are like old system, new system. There shouldn't be any old new system. It should be what's the fairest. And I call it the grandpa policy. When do I end up like Gramps, where he didn't ever talk to Veterans Affairs? He fought in the second. He got blown up. Yeah. He came back, started his life. And like, I didn't get to know him very well because he passed away when I was really young, but talking with my family, it's like, no, there was never any, like, there's no meltdowns at the table like I have, where I'm just like, fuck, what, like my wife's like, who are these people? Why are they? It's like, one of the biggest stresses of my day is having to talk to these people and like not knowing which organization I need to talk to. And the confounding amount of information that comes my way with different portals, different benefits, one person saying one thing, another person saying another, like insurance claims that don't go through. It's just like, why is it so confusing? I would just, to make things simple, if you just say every month, this is what you get, and that's it, I'd be like, okay, cool. Let me go live my life. And I don't have to talk to a case manager. I find it very patronizing. I think that's basically it. Like Jordan Peterson talked about like the infantilization of like all of our institutions. I think that's it.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
It's like, it's mothering. Like we're all warriors. And then we talk, and like, I don't want to shit on women here, but they have a different perspective. So when I get fired up on the phone, and I don't know if you got fired up, they get really scared. They're like, I'm not angry at you. Like I don't want to hurt you. I'm just super frustrated. And the way I voice it is like, fuck, shit.
Yeah.
This is bullshit, like, and so and then things go sideways. And I think the institutions are like, they're failing because they don't understand that who they're dealing with. So it's like a company that doesn't understand their clients. It's inevitably going to fail.
Yeah. And again, like it's, it feels like gaslighting a little bit, and stuff like that. And I remembered why I brought up Paul actually is because I remember he made the news because they wanted him to do a form to prove whether or not he'd gotten better or not. And someone had repossessed a wheelchair, and I remember at the time saying kind of what James said, like, come on, dude, just do the paperwork or whatever, and now looking back, I realized like how wrong we were at the time, and we should have stuck to our guns on this. And, and it's just going to take time and effort. And, we've all managed, we've managed to come together for a few things as veterans. And I think, with the way the world's looking and the possible conflicts coming in the future, you know, our combat soldiers especially need to know that they're going to come home to a better option if they do get, you know, their lives irreversibly, you know, wrecked through physical violence that is being done on behalf of the crown. You know, like again, I never thought I'd ever end up in this position. It just wasn't a worry until, you know, the last couple of years when I've really had to use Veterans Affairs system. I realized I'm like, it's not doing what they said it would do. You know.
Yeah, I have to totally agree with you on that, man. And this is why we're having the conversation, man. This is just the start, right? And what I'm hoping, right, is that you're the, you know, within every, let's say, I'm trying to sound philosophical here. It's not gonna work, dude. You're just this has gotten you fired up, so it's gotten you activated, right? So,
yeah, like
it's a shitty situation whenever your income is shut off and you have kids and you have a mortgage. That sucks.
Yeah,
but it also gets you dialed in and it gets you focused.
Well,
and that's the good thing that can come out of this. So whenever
I put up an Instagram post where I said, thank you, Veterans Affairs, for reminding me. You're right. I'm being lazy. I'm just laying around with my legs blown off, feeling sorry for myself. So, you know, I think maybe it is time to do a bit of a comeback here over the next, you know, couple of years. So yeah, like, you know.
Well, you're lifting those kettlebells, man. I love seeing those posts. Yeah, I want to see more of those, man. That's
coming. It's coming, buddy. I'm like,
yeah.
Instagram has finally allowed me to have, you know, all the paid features after years of not allowing it and stuff. So it's you know, my social media is slowly being less not here. Suppressed, but
dude, same here. You know, yeah. I couldn't run a lot. I couldn't run ads. My like they choked my business to death because I was my ads were all Facebook and Meta. And I was like, oh, it'll get better. It's fine. It's a weird thing. They made a mistake. And then only a few months ago, all of a sudden it's all opened up again. So did something happen? Like if you have you at the same time and me, it's really weird that
I think that there's relaxing a little bit because, you know, a different point of view is becoming more acceptable in the media.
Yeah.
That, you know, enough people are thinking in you know, even just slightly different ways that, you know, banned words are back and certain things like that in the pop media. So, you know, it's an interesting development. So here's what I think. I think, you know, once I'm actually, you know, paying for boosts and doing regular stuff, I think Instagram will relax. Facebook still has it, you know, I know they're the same company, but I think they're a little stricter. And then, you know, like X or Twitter still won't let me do anything. Like, you know, I had a verified account in 19 and, you know, it disappeared during the purge. And X has my name. Definitely, even under any other new Twitter handle or X handle, I am told.
That's wild, man. I was doing the same thing. I was doing the same thing with Facebook. I was like going to my parents' house, opening up accounts there on like PNs, and it always, because I guess they're smarter than I am, right? I'm gonna get around it. I'm gonna go to my parents' house. They're like, okay.
They're like, okay, Dave.
Okay. All right, Dave. All right, D Moore. Yeah, all right. You're not D Moore. Gotcha.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that happened, bro. I'm sorry to hear that.
It hurt, man. It really did, because especially when you're running a company and, you know, you're trying to promote books and like you've got your own thing going on too. Like if you're doing online stuff, you know, on brick and mortar, well, you know, if you can't run ads, it's basically the end if you're relying on people to come and buy stuff from you. So
it'd be like someone putting a barrier at your door on the street, you know, that nobody can come through.
Right. It's just, yeah, exactly. It's like putting up a huge like HESCO barrier around your business and saying like, oh, you can come.
Yeah,
but
you're still open.
You're still open. You gotta get over the HESCO barrier. You can't see the sign. And then when you're in, you're good, you know? So that was my life for the last like,
man, that sucks.
But, Jody, this has been a great chat, man. I got to go pick up my kids. So we'll put a pin in it, and we'll love to have.
This is far from over, man.
Again, an update in the future.
Yeah. Sorry, just let me say again, Dave, thanks so much for the time on your show. Keep doing what you're doing. Anybody out there listening, if you're inspired, do it. You know, this is the kind of thing that the veteran and the military community needs, is our own voice.
Right on, brother. I totally agree. Thanks for giving us your time today, Jody. And
drink Green Army coffee. Pro Patria.
Bro, and folks, don't forget, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, make sure to share, and let's continue to grow this channel, man. I'm really appreciative of everybody that tunes in. This is a real hoot. I never thought anything would come of this. And Jody, thanks to you, man, for having a great podcast years ago that just activated me. So folks, tune in next week. We'll be back from the Hard to Kill conference, from the Military Influencer Conference, with all kinds of updates. And don't forget, train hard, fight easy. See you on the next one. Peace.